should have been was established by the government of Dominica a few years ago. My question is, can you bring us up to date on that fund and how successful it has been for the Kalinago territory? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Curtis, for your question. Okay, so the Kalinago Development Fund was established earlier this year, and we want to commend the persons in the Kalinago territory because they have shown the ability, they have shown the commitment, they have shown the willingness to apply to this fund. As a matter of fact, up to date, we have about 20 Kalinago Braves who have benefited from that program. So it is a program that is very successful, and we intend to have more persons benefit from that program.
My question is, how has the Kalinago week of activities grown over the years, and what makes this year's activities unique?
Thank you very much, Kiwana. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. The Kalinago week of activities really evolved, and we have seen a progression of activities and involvement of community. So it first began as sort of a cultural movement, the one that responded to the situation of in the 1970s. There was Black Power movement, and there was a conscious Kalinago movement led by Prosper Paris and a few others who did the cultural group, the California Cultural Group. And then it sort of evolved naturally to involve schools and even the church and all the civil society members. In the past few years, we have seen the involvement of government institutions across the board. So it moved from just being a community activity with the leadership from the councils and various chiefs to have interministerial connections. So the involvement of the ministries of agriculture and also, more importantly, the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Culture itself to promote the aspects of the heritage. And so there has been a gradual involvement of people across the society. And if we fast forward to this present Kalinago week, we'll see the involvement of people in the private sector who don't have any real cultural leaning or any real commitment, or they don't have any obligation, I should say, to developing culture, but they understand that is a critical part. The community is a critical part of the Dominican society. And even this year, we're going further afield, like my brother Nietzsche said, we do have regional partners who are going to come in and participate. So there's a natural sort of evolution of this, and I'm hoping that it will become a staple in the calendar. So I'm happy that this year it's part of the Independence Celebration official calendar, and we do have some serious support from the Ministry of Tourism. Some of the items lined up at the activities are given under the heads from the budget of the Ministry of Tourism. So I'm excited for this. And so it has gradually grown from just a homegrown sort of insular Kalinago thing to a more wide Tikubolian concept. And I am pushing the folks here at the head table and yourselves to make it a regional thing, because the Kalinago space is the last frontier for indigenous peoples, the remnants of the people who original settlers of that space within the region, the only organized and recognized community. And so a celebration like this, I believe, has to have regional appeal and regional connections. So we have seen the evolution, and more people are getting involved in that process. Last year we had a wonderful experience at the Kalinago Miss Kalinago show. That the winner of the show, very, very progressive young lady, actually emerged as Miss Dominica and was able to represent the country at regional pageants. And we know how those pageants go. We know how those things go. We know that in everything there's things happening in the background. But I'm very proud of Alicia, who did that. And that comes out of that little Kalinago week that started many moons ago. So we have seen a growing concept. And I'll also say that the government in the entirety has continued to support. And the Prime Minister, again, is the one leading that charge too, to make sure that we do have the relevant financing to ensure that this. So this is like our Kalinago territory feast, if you want to say it that way, and it has grown over the years. Thank you.
Good morning, Aliyah Jaja, Kari FM. My first question is, what is the purpose of the celebration for Ms. Burton? And also, will the naming ceremony also be open to all? So, like, can I or someone from Roseau come to the territory and receive a Kalinago name?
Yes, Mrs. Burton. I don't know if the rest of the country feels the weight and significance of this nomination to the presidency. The last time that a Kalinago person held high office, that high office was Caleb Warner in 1664, when Caleb Warner was then recognized as the governor of Dominica by the British government. So since 1664, this work has been in progress. The Kalinago people have borne the brunt of exploitation, of marginalization, of every ill that you can think. And yet, today we celebrate this amazing accomplishment by a Kalinago woman. It is truly remarkable and historical. So we could not, in good conscience, not have a celebration of this event. And so the entire community has come together to celebrate and to honor Mrs. Sylvanie Burton and to thank Prime Minister Skerrit and the government for her nomination. So that is the purpose of the celebration. It is a celebration that is open to the entire country, because not only is it a significant accomplishment for the Kalinago people, it is a significant accomplishment for this country, for the entire Waitikubuli. So that is the purpose, and we are so grateful for it.
Thanks every time. So let's do the Kalinago names. You know, most of our people, Kalinago people, had their names before. We name our people the names. We were colonized by these two things, by colonization politics, but also religious. And we were given names. We were given names even when our forefathers say, I want to name my child Obutu, they say, but that song in funny. They couldn't write it at the name at the time. So most of the names were introduced by other people naming us. My name, for example, is Prosper Paris. It was never my parents' name. My name, and when I came big, I say my name has to be Nkutubulu, backbone. And I have named some of my children, renamed them Kalinago name. They accepted that very consciously that they want Kalinago name. So we want everybody something that we're proud of. African people searching African names for their children. People who belong to religious, they want to be Muslim, they find all the names to connect them. Why not Kalinago name? So we want to say everybody for Kalinago and say, Srin, you deserve a Kalinago name. Name yourself a Kalinago name. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prosper. Anybody else?
I just want to revisit the Kalinago Development Fund. I asked earlier. I would like the minister to at least, give me an answer to this, if that's possible, Minister. I just want to find out a little more about the development fund. It was established to ensure that the fortunes of the Kalinago territory would be revived. I've just heard that from Mr. Frederick that just about 20 people have accessed funds from that fund so far. Is that what we were expecting at this time of the year? Would you have expected many more people to access funds from the fund? And what is the reason why only 20 people have so far accessed funds from that new establishment?
Honorable Minister.
Yes, so we have established the fund. The government has allocated first $860,000, which is a merger of a past project we had, 2 projects, and $1 million is committed every year. And so what we do is we're trying to change the cycle of development within the Kalinago space, to have people reacculturized to take risks and to able to manage better enterprises. So the Kalinago folks go through the normal rigors of the banking processes. So it's not because it's a Kalinago fund that some from the Kalinago territory are going to get on the bus, come to Rose, and I come for money, because I hear it have money there for me. That's not the concept. They have to go through the rigors of the banking system. So it's a development fund. And in many instances, some people have not been able to qualify because they're seeking to reconcile the loans. And the aid bank as a development bank can't do banking reconciliations. It has to be for developmental projects. So the 20 folks who have already benefited have engaged in bus services. So they are buses, so they could do the taxi or be taxi operators. Some folks have developed their homes to be Airbnb and homestays. Some other folks have gotten loans to develop their farms, buy the greenhouses, buy necessary equipment. Some other folks have purchased vehicles for their farms and for the enterprises. And so the 20 folks who are qualified are actually folks who were tasked with bringing a proper business plan that would meet the regulations of the bank, and also to be able to show a commitment that they can pay those loans. Because we are mindful that although we have a situation where there's inequity within the Dominican sphere for those of Kalinago descent, that the Kalinago people who are engaged in a serious enterprise have to be responsible for that engagement. And so what we're saying, that we don't need a favor. We need a hand up. We need to level the playing field a little bit, because we don't have land as collateral. So what the government has done is to take that a risk to secure that loan for us, because we don't have a grandfather or our parent land title to put in the bank. So the government is taking that risk for us. And so we are mindful that we have to be able to produce and provide the banking institution with viable businesses that can be sustainable. Because if you look across the Dominican landscape, there are instances where many people have benefited from grants, small business grants, money that the government has given out, and sometimes institutions like the credit union. And sometimes the idea of free money, there's a little accountability. So there are a lot of folks across the Kalinago space who have applied and who, by the banking standards, are not qualified. And so what we are doing now is reassessing those applications, more than 200 of those applications, and see what other facility we can create. And so we are talking now with the NCCU, with the wonderful leadership of Mr. James here, to see how we can do the banking reconciliation. So people who have private loans and the small loans at the big edge and the fast cash, how we can consolidate those. But these cannot happen within the constructs of a development bank. So we are looking at people's private bank accounts at the credit unions, and how we can create a facility, make some of that money. Some money is available so that they can consolidate and are able to, for want of a better term, free up their pay slips, so they can now go to the aid bank and go and to develop a bigger enterprise. So these are the hurdles we have. So it's the first time we've been doing this. So we are going through it and we are learning as we go along. We are seeing what people are interested in. It's one thing to develop a concept, but it's another thing to operationalize it. And within the process, we are learning from the Kalinago space. We have serious support from the Kalinago Council, because the council has to give a recommendation, because how to say the person is in good standing, is not of criminal intent, do have some land in the Kalinago space, that they have a physical presence in that space, that the business that they have is a legitimate business. All of this is important. So we are checking a number of boxes, and we're hoping in the next round next year, we're going to create a facility where people can do more private loans. Because a number of people are concerned about consolidating their debt in various places.
So, Mr. Minister, this can be described as the savior for the Kalinago people. Listen to what I'm hearing from you this morning. This development fund cannot be considered as the savior for the Kalinago people.
A development fund in any definition, in any space, cannot be a savior of any community or any people. It is an opportunity for people to take a risk in themselves and to be able to develop their enterprises. And so it is one piece of the bigger thing. And then part of the solution to that sort of saving the Kalinago space is an economic symposium that will provide people with the know-how of how to better engage in enterprises. There's an interesting piece of the conversation that we need to insert in this wider conversation, that no one out of the Kalinago space can acquire lands in the Kalinago space. But we have an opportunity as Kalinago people to acquire lands out of the Kalinago space. So we may well look at purchasing lands out of the Kalinago space to build other enterprises as we continue to show how serious we are about our own development. So the KDF is a small step. There was a point where you could not access any loans. Now you can access a small loan, and we intend to grow it. We realize that parts of it are not applicable to certain people in the space. And for the intents and purposes of that program, people have to show that they're able to pay back that loan. So it's sort of becoming a revolving fund that will affect generations of people down the road and build a culture of enterprise and entrepreneurship.
Curtis, if you don't mind, I know you called on the minister, but do you mind if I?
Obviously.
Okay, thank you. So just to reinforce some of the things that the minister mentioned, I've heard in passing that people have sometimes questioned, well, why is the Kalinago have a separate fund that nobody else has, right? So I wanted to shed a little bit of light on that. The fund was established at a 2% interest rate for Kalinago people. The fact is the Aid Bank has numerous funds at very low interest rates that the majority and mass of Dominicans have access to that the Kalinago people cannot access. There was a tourism fund that was established several years ago for $15 million that we couldn't access because we didn't have title to land. There's an agricultural fund that was set up for 2%. There was an industrial something fund that was set up. So there have been numerous funds set up by the government to address specific economic and private sector segments. This one particular fund is essentially the same type of approach that the government has used. But this is something that we have been asking for decades. So we thank the government for finally establishing it at $1 million a year. But if you look at $1 million a year, spread out over a population of about 3,000 people, civil servants who cannot access mortgages, who cannot even access the civil servant facility. There's a special facility for civil servants to get mortgages, right? The Kalinago civil servant cannot even access that facility. So if a Kalinago civil servant wanted to take a mortgage to build a house and what does a house cost in Dominica today? $300,000, $250,000. How many people are you going to qualify with $1 million? So it is clear that there is a significant need for this type of financial help for the people of the Kalinago territory. But the $1 million itself is insufficient, and it needs to grow over a period of time to address the needs of all of the people who live up there. I am proud to say that all of the monies that have been put into that fund has been exhausted. It has gone out the door. The people have applied and the money is gone. And we have a list of applicants of maybe 200 people waiting to access additional funding because the $1 million is finished. So we have a significant need for economic opportunity and financial resources in the Kalinago territory, and the KDF is just one small step at bringing some equity economically to the people of the Kalinago territory.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hill, for that addition. So at this time, we'll close. We want to thank all of you for coming. We want to thank our listening public, and we want to invite every one of you. We want to invite Dominica, residents of Dominica, to visit the Kalinago territory within Kalinago week from the 16th to the 23rd of September 2023. Thank you.